You know, Charles, normally when there's a Donald Trump assassination attempt, I would make the movie poster about that, but they're becoming so frequent now, we decided to go with the Secret Life of Eating Pets. How are you, Charles?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well, Jason. I'm safe, and it's a joy to connect back up with you. I'm telling you, um, these posters are so great. Twice a week, I'm going to have to buy 10 more apartments to have the space to put, or maybe
And
a big house.
just to clarify, we worked on this last night. Obviously, this second Trump assassination attempt, kind of unbelievable, but also not. Charles, are we now living in a world where they're just going to keep trying to assassinate Trump?
Well, I think the whole quote reality of the world in which we live has become unstuck. Reality, our perception of reality has been shaped by network television, by movies, by books, by academia, and by so-called influencers who have been quite effective in selling garbage as ice cream. And if you think about it, it's not all that surprising. When I was a kid, and I didn't really like sweets that much, they actually tried to market on television this sandwich on Wonder Bread with peanut butter and marshmallows called a fluffernutter. And I just thought that was disgusting. I didn't particularly like marshmallows. I sort of like peanut butter, but the combination of why ruin white bread when you're a kid, Wonder Bread tastes good. But if they can sell a fluffernutter and get people to buy fluffernutters, they can sell anything, which is what they did, if you think about it, with Barack Obama. I mean, he was a conceptually attractive product that was served up to the electorate at a time when George W. Bush had so destroyed confidence in the Republican Party, justifiably. I mean, think about people talk about, and Trump talks about the worst presidents in modern history. Think about how fucking awful George W. Bush was, right? Across what now is the littered landscape of the Middle East, America's reputation outside of Israel and maybe inside Israel lies in tatters. How much money did we spend in Iraq chasing weapons of mass destruction that evil rodent, Liz Cheney and her father, assured us were there, the weapons of mass destruction? How many lives were lost? How many bodies were mutilated? How many minds were grievously altered by that wreck of a war in Afghanistan and Iraq? And why didn't we chastise, if not go after, the elements in Saudi Arabia and the elements behind those elements in Saudi Arabia, if they were indeed the CIA? Why didn't we go after them? So the George W. Bush presidency was a train wreck, both of them, both terms. Barack Obama had no relevant experience, right? He was a shitty senator. I mean, he was a failed candidate. He never did anything legitimate in the private sector. He was not a manager. He was a failed senator, supposedly having homosexual affairs on crack with that guy. What was his name?
Larry Sinclair?
Larry Craig.
Sinclair.
While he was a state senator. Somebody says, you know what, there's an opening for a U.S. senator. Why don't we just put you right in there? Somebody cranks up that speech that he gives at the Democratic National Convention. It was admittedly well delivered, extremely well delivered. On the strength of that speech and a very weak opponent, he sails into the U.S. Senate, does sweet fuck all in the U.S. Senate. On the basis of that, people say, you know what, you're qualified to be president of the United States against what's his name? John McCain, another loathsome rhino, corrupt individual. The deep state reasons that they can't lose. They've got the McCain. If McCain wins, they'll control him. Who knows what really happened with McCain in Vietnam and other issues. But Barack wins. And, we're a hair's breadth away from a global depression, thanks to the corrupt rhinos who were supporting General Electric and other corrupt enterprises who had poured money into the W. Bush campaign. We're on the precipice of disaster. They insert this idiot in with another idiot, Joe Biden, who they know is corrupt, and they pretend that the Barack administration was a success when it wasn't. If you look objectively he loves to talk, B-Rock, about the arc of history. If you look at the projection of the arc of private sector employment and income after tax from, let's say, 1981 forward, it goes on a rocket ship ride up, first under Reagan, then under H.W. it slows, and then under Clinton it goes back up. But under W. Bush it doesn't do that well, and then it crashes in 2008. And under B-Rock it doesn't do that well at all. If you go back to 2007, which is really the peak prior to B-Rock taking over as president. So the idea that the B-Rock administration was a success, either domestically, economically, financially, or more importantly, with regard to America's standing around the world, is complete bullshit. So the same playbook is now being run that was run for Biden. I mean, Biden and Obama. I mean, Biden was a bad joke in 1988. He had to withdraw his candidacy for president because he had to confess that he lied about every important aspect of his life: law school, college, stealing from Neil Kinnock the lines of a great speech by Kinnock, and using it. Initially, the mainstream, of course, loved the speech. Then somebody said, "Hey, he copied it word from Neil Kinnock, the labor MP." So Biden was a disaster in '88. He was a disaster in the 2019 early 20 cycle. What's her name? This idiot who can't string a sentence together. Kamala Harris, who's now the nominee, having won no votes ever in a primary for president herself. She shreds him in 2020, but they decide, this is the guy we can work with. So they stuff him in a crooked deal as president. We don't need to litigate on this broadcast what actually may have happened in the voting box in 2020. But the real question is, when did the people who control this puppet, Biden, learn and know that he was mentally incompetent, should not be in the chair that he now is in? When did they know that? Because it wasn't last week, and it wasn't last month, and it wasn't last year. He's been president now. He's worse than Woodrow Wilson was. He's worse than Franklin D. Roosevelt was when both of those guys were incapacitated, and those facts were hidden from the American public. So now they're trying the same playbook with this idiot. The most telling thing, there are many things that have come out, and we'll have to talk in more depth once the First Amendment forum kicks in. But this interview that she gave, this idiot who never won a primary vote, has not yet actually given subjected herself to a tough interview anywhere, in any form, print, radio, TV, you name it. And this interview she gave out there in Philadelphia, the first version of it was horrifically bad. Then we learned that version was edited to take out even worse shit. And so now the actual interview is out there. This person could not win a legitimate election for student body president of a junior high school in West Virginia, to pick on a state that is under-resourced educationally, or Kentucky. I mean, she is not smart enough to be a moron. And now we learn, as we rightly should be concerned about the second assassination attempt, but now we learn from a whistleblower that the whole ABC debate was rigged. And remember that Trump went to that debate with grave reservations because he is in litigation against ABC for what George Stephanopoulos did to him, who works for ABC. So now we learn with this whistleblower affidavit that senior executives at ABC agreed to concessions that should never have been made available, whether to Trump or to Harris. This is not a debate. This was a television commercial, an extended television commercial for Kamala Harris. And as such, first of all, if I'm the Trump campaign, and I'm not a lawyer, I would be thinking about canceling their FCC license. I would be thinking about a massive lawsuit. I would be thinking about a complaint that the entire affair was an undisclosed political contribution to the Harris campaign, and that the people involved in the campaign are engaged in a conspiracy to hide that, using telephone media, using electronic media across state lines. Perhaps this is a RICO conspiracy. I mean, this is outrageous stuff. And where's CNN on this? Where's the New York Times on this? Where's Jeff Bezos on this? Where's Elon Musk on this? Where's Tucker Carlson on this? This is an outrage that this bimbo, who is only in office now because she slept her way into jobs that Willie Brown gave her early in her career and has followed that path ever since. This is not even an airhead. And you have all, Taylor Swift and all these idiots going around and say, oh, she's bringing joy. She's not bringing joy. She's encouraging Haitians to eat pets, and she's encouraging maniacs to shoot her political opposition. And Hakeem Jeffries, before this assassination attempt and after the assassination attempt, has been spewing vitriol. Barack Obama had a tweet, calling about the importance of this election campaign. We need to fight, fight, fight. I mean, it is the other side that is outrageous and needs to be not just defeated, swept from office, and consigned to the dustbin of history after 2024. There needs to be serious resource investigations of what has been going on in America and around the world with the deep state for pushing up people like this who are enriching themselves. I mean, the two of them do not have 5 IQ points combined or a resume that would argue that either of them should be a dog catcher in a place where dogs are still living and not being eaten. And I don't know where that is inside America. Other than that, I don't have any opinions.
That's good. No, you're right, Charles. I mean, it's outrageous. And the thing is, people who support Kamala Harris see this cheating and they're like, oh, well, that's okay because they're cheating in our favor. I mean, it is outrageous. I don't understand how these people can work at ABC and think they're involved in news. It's absolutely insane.
Well, I actually can tell you something about that. In the 15-16 cycle, I somehow was pretty regularly filmed at ABC News in their main when their main news station, for this type of stuff, for interviews, was on 66th Street between Central Park West and Columbus. And I got to know the top news person there, producer, who happened to be a black man. And I have to say he was reasonably professional, but he was definitely partisan. And that's what you have at these news organizations. They are no longer news organizations. They understand that if they understand that they can push a miserable person into a position of great power. They understand that when that person gets into power, whether it's Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, or whatever, that the team around those people is likely to be vindictive. And so if a hit piece comes out on an ABC affiliate or talk show or whatever, the White House communications team has the ability to consign ABC and its corporate owner, Disney, into oblivion and to make sure that they never get a serious interview again during the presidency, that they don't get the kind of scoops that might help them in the ratings and all that. And so they're vindictive as hell. And that is not policed by Congress, and it needs to be. That relationship is not policed because why? If a congressman or a senator gets too hot and heavy against a news organization, that news organization can make the congressman and the senator look bad, which is why, frankly, as I think about it, that Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter was a genius move, because I think more and more of the people, myself included, are going to stop watching this propaganda bullshit on CBS, ABC, NBC, BBC, and the like, and they're going to start looking for evidence themselves, which you can find on Twitter, and you can evaluate for yourself on Twitter, and which you can get some assistance from shows like this one and the many great ones that you do, Jason. And others like Laura Loomer and other people who are so controversial today. That's where the thirst for knowledge is going to be satisfied, not reading bullshit in the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal, or waiting, for the Sunday shows when you can watch 6 minutes of crap and then have to listen to 3 minutes of commercials for, I don't know, a Dupuytren's contraction and some disease you've never heard of, and My Pillow. People are going to shift, I think, a lot of the few minutes we have left on Earth each are going to be spent more on X and maybe on Facebook and other places and YouTube, where you can try to evaluate evidence for yourself, and you can look at it and check it and triple check it, and not certainly. And you should assume, I think now, that anything that is immediately, across the broadcast and New York Times complex is sold to you as truth, you can assume it's false. You can start there, and now you can then check for yourself on X. Get on Crowdsource the Truth.
Yeah, and listen, Charles, this is interesting. Laura has a thing here on her X timeline where they're saying there's a growing firestorm in Springfield. Some of the Haitian migrants are reportedly making lots of police reports saying that they're surrounded and they feel threatened. And so here we see Lester Holt trying to make it seem like, these Haitian migrants are being targeted by, MAGA propaganda, and it's making them unsafe. Meanwhile, they're overrunning the town and crashing their cars into everything.
Well, first of all, that's pronounced Lester Dolt. And secondly, if you come in if an American mistakenly gets into Mexico, down there in that San Diego Tijuana road, which apparently I've never been on, but you can easily find yourself in the wrong lane. Next thing you know, you're on your way to Mexico. If you go into Mexico illegally, you are in deep trouble, and you have every reason to be afraid of what could happen to you in Mexico and what could happen to you in a Mexican jail. Similarly, if you rush into the United States illegally, you should be afraid, because you've committed a grievous crime. It is not your right to come into this country illegally, despite what NGOs might tell you, despite what Kamala Harris may say, despite what these idiots on the mainstream press are saying. It's not your right to do that. You have committed a crime. Now, if you're here committing the crime because you really fear for your safety, not economically, but because you are a political rival or you've got some reason to think that your life is in danger in your home country, okay, we'll have a hearing, we'll figure out if that's true. But 20,000 people coming into a town of 60,000 have every right to be afraid, because they're in this country illegally. They're going to be deported when Trump wins, as they should be.
I agree with you completely, Charles. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that it's gotten to a point, we're well past the point where it really doesn't matter if this allegation of eating pets is a meme or a fact, because it's put attention on this town. And the fact is what you just said, 20,000 migrants injected into this town that clearly doesn't have the infrastructure, the financial resources, the police resources. There have been a lot of interviews on X and YouTube and elsewhere of people in the town saying, they've lived there their whole entire life and they're afraid to go outside. I mean, think about it. We see here in New York an excess of migrants, and this is a gigantic city that could absorb a lot of people. Like, if you're noticing that, that's a huge number. And I mean, towns like Springfield, Ohio are not used to these huge influxes of people.
Well, and, we've talked about it in the past, how odd it was in Bill's ridiculous book, My Lice, or My Lies, or My Life, or whatever it is, where he talked about the truly implausible story that should have been fact-checked and still hasn't been fact-checked because the book remains outstanding, that Bill Clinton went on 2 honeymoons with Hillary Clinton. That the first one was someplace local, I forget where, maybe it was Mexico. But according to his book, he received a phone call from a friend he had met in London in England when he was a Rhodes Scholar, who I think was CIA. There are 2 brothers. The names will come to me in a second. And Bill's story in the book, which is published, and in the book, the paperback and hardback books, I think, gave him around $15 million. Right? So somebody made money off this book in theory. It's supposed to be a biography. It's supposed to be actual and, checked. In this book, he claims that this guy called him up and said, look, in 1975, I have extra frequent flyer miles, and I want to take you on a second honeymoon. I'll go with you to Haiti. Now think about that. I mean, you've been married, I've been married. Did a friend come along on your honeymoon? It's like Mike Waltz
No.
going to China on his honeymoon, the 10th anniversary of his Tiananmen Square. So the story is total bullshit because I checked. Back then, there were no frequent flyer programs that offered free tickets to Haiti. So that's bullshit. But he goes on and on in this book about being taken. I don't know if it was with Aristide or not, but taken to a voodoo ceremony and how captivated he was by it with Hillary and this and that. I'm sorry, I have no interest in going to a voodoo ceremony of any kind. And when you check into voodoo, it is practiced quite prevalently in Haiti, and it does involve sacrifice, animal sacrifices. Let's hope it doesn't involve human sacrifice. So, I mean, this idea that they try to sell America's a nation of immigrants, and no, it's not a nation of illegal immigrants. It certainly is not. And this idea that we should just open the front door, send these fucking 20,000 Haitians to Martha's Vineyard, or out to Aspen, or you name it, Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
We'll see how long they stay.
Quickly
there.
they get sent packing.
Right.
One day.
And it's clear that this program and the people behind it, this program, are trying to turn red states blue by putting illegal immigrants into these places, and then gaming the system on November 5th to have illegal immigrants vote or say they voted. I don't know if you've been following this scandal of election contributions, but people are now cross-checking the names and amounts of people who, in theory, gave money to Democrats to discover and contacting the names. And these people are saying, I didn't give any money. So there's a scheme afoot. It's been afoot for some time to have dark money routed to support campaigns like the Harris and other campaigns in the names of straw donors. And of course, what is Merrick Garland doing about it? He and his team are probably advancing it. And what is Kamala Harris's dirty brother-in-law doing about this? Check into who her sister is married to. This guy, I think Tony West is his name. Another criminal associated with the Harris campaign.
He's an Uber executive, Charles. I don't like Uber. That's interesting. Harris's brother-in-law, a corporate executive, emerges as a close advisor. Wasn't he convicted of embezzling or something?
Accused? I don't know what. Then in addition, I don't really like Megyn Kelly, but I saw a clip on my Twitter feed of her just destroying some idiot, some lawfare guy who was saying if Trump's a convicted felon, 5 times convicted felon. And even I had failed to appreciate that a tiny handful of the matters that in which Trump is a defendant now are criminal matters. Many of them are civil. And in a civil matter, you're not convicted, you're found liable. It's a big difference.
This says, if Kamala Harris wins the White House, her brother-in-law, Tony West, who is married to her sister Maya, is poised to claim the crooked crown. Like Hunter, West learned his craft in the Obama years. Then head of the Justice Department's Civil Division, he invented a new
Civil Rights Division, right?
Of what 19th century, 20th century Tammany boss George Washington Plunkett famously called honest graft. It was simple. Until 1977, Congress had to approve any settlement of a civil suit against the federal government over $100,000. This preserved the constitutional requirement that Congress control the government's purse. But in that year, seeking relief from the burgeoning volume of suits to review, Congress removed the cap, handing the Justice Department a permanent blank check to pay settlements unilaterally in any amount out of an account known as the Judgment Fund. Run by the Treasury Department, the Treasury Fund's secrecy is so complete that our often penetrated CIA might study it for lessons. The limited data released omits recipients, the facts underlying the case, and often the lawyers involved. Holy crap. This is like the lawfare, payment fund here.
Right. It's outrageous. And you saw a pattern of that under Obama where Yeah, and friends of mine, it is drop. I'm not going to say their names, who were CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, big financial institutions, explained to me when I suggested to them, look, you've got resources. It's not like you're a small company. And they would shake their heads and they say, Charles, you don't understand what these people can do. You know, if the Department of Justice decides to go after a husky, company whose market value is 200 billion and it's a bank, let's say, so its total value is in the trillions with debt, they can make your life miserable and there's not much you can do because you're regulated. So they have a lot of power. Do we want these thugs to be empowered come January 20th, 2025? And the answer is hell no. Should these thugs, rhinos and Democrats alike, be investigated? Hell yes. Should Trump put together a team that is impervious to graft? Hell yes. That's what we need here. And the deep state's afraid of that. So they're encouraging kooks all over the place to come forward and do their damnedest, which apparently this latest kook just tried to do.
I think they must have a raft of these individuals. But Charles, we're in a moment here where we should break and make our way over to the First Amendment Forum. People are going to be able to join us there. Sponsors, of course, watch every week. People who are joining us now, we've got a really large number of viewers right now. Thank you, everybody who's watching. If you'd like to join us for the sponsor-exclusive segment, please go over to subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. You can become a sponsor on there. Of course, the most economical way for you guys and for me is for people to sponsor on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. You've got a fantastic search engine on there, live chat during all of the live streams, including the sponsor exclusive segment we're about to start. And for as little as $3 a month plus a 58-cent Odyssey fee, you can support independent tech rather than big tech and independent journalism. So please join us. We'll be right back. Thanks for